Welcome back to another episode of the Nursing Now podcast. My name is Janelle McSwiggan, and I am here with Prisca Benson. She is a money coach, and she's here to talk to us about all things money. And I'm really excited to have her on. Prisca, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So can you tell everyone a little bit more about what you do and what money coaching is?
Yes. So money coaching is a way of helping people come to Jesus with their money, right? Where a lot
Yeah.
of times people want to avoid it and they get so stressed about it. But we here, money coaches are here to help you connect with your money and help make better choices so that you can achieve financial freedom.
Yeah, I can definitely see that being really anxiety producing for the people that may have avoided looking into their finances for a little bit. So I'm really happy that you're here to offer that support to people. And you offer coaching, digital products, and monthly calls. Is that right?
Yes, the monthly calls are a way of pay as what you can kind of model so that to make it accessible for people. So I pick a topic every month based mostly on the feedback of my community that are on my email list, like, hey, what are the topics you want to hear? And so that way they can get access to the information that they need. And then a lot of people when they come into my world, because of the fact that they are averse when it comes to money. Like one of my digital product offers is a financial fitness checklist where we kind of walk you through the process of how to like assess how well you're doing with your money. And that way, when you get the full picture, then you can actually make good decisions as to what to move forward. So it helps you like kind of pinpoint which areas need the most attention. And then for the people who do that don't want to do it on their own, either because they're too scared to or because they just don't have the time and they want the support, there is a one-to-one coaching with me where we start off with a session that just kind of goes through your whole entire all your line items, seeing what we can do better with, what we can improve on, and what we can eliminate. Okay. And then you leave with a plan so that every time you make income, you know exactly what you're going to do with that income every single time.
Super comprehensive. So it sounds like the first way to really get in touch with you would be to join the email list. So I'm going to
Yes.
definitely have all the socials and the links in the section below the podcast. So that's awesome to hear. So can you tell me a little bit more about your journey as a nurse to an entrepreneur?
Yes. So I call myself an entrepreneur by mistake, okay? Because I never planned on doing it. But when I graduated from nursing school in 2011, I started making, nursing income. Being first generation American, I came out with income that was greater than both my parents combined. And so it was like, whoa, like what a big windfall. But I didn't realize how little I knew about money. So I lived my life the way I kind of expected people to do, like what kind of was the norm, which is, spending money on your credit cards, buying cars, like just not making very much intentional decisions, but just like going through life. And then in 2013, I got married to my husband who didn't have any debt. And I was like, whoa, what an interesting concept. Like you can do stuff with your paychecks while mine goes to Visa and Discover. So together we started to be a little bit more intentional about money and kind of have a shared vision as to what we want our life to look like. But then even then, then in 2018, which is 5 years later at this point, I still didn't feel like my net worth looked like what they expect like a Northeast nurse to be making, and to have in the bank. And I started listening to personal finance podcasts, and those inspired me to be more intentional about investing, and that has helped me grow my wealth over 340K at this point. So it's great because like what I came to notice learning about money is how little everybody else knew about money. And so that's what kind of inspired me to become a money coach because I'm like, a lot of people need this information in order to grow their wealth, and people
Mhm.
feel like they're stuck and like they're kind of like there's nowhere to go from here. Like they feel paycheck to paycheck. They feel so constrained. I'm like, I think if you understood your money better, you would see what options are out there versus just the limitations.
Honestly, spoken like a really empathetic nurse right there, seeing a need and trying to support people in that. And also, as an entrepreneur, you said that you're an accidental entrepreneur, but you saw a market and you wanted to improve it. And coming from someone that had debt and then got out of debt and then also built their assets is really beneficial to people that are in debt themselves, because you can actually see that, you can support that, and you've been there. Um,
Yeah, I come from that angle as well because even not just for myself, but for the people who I've come in contact with, to know, let them know that there is something better out there. It does very much remind me of like even in healthcare where we're just trying to get that person to like see the light. Like there's something past the moment that you're in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like finances are really tough for people to see that too. I think people become very used to a certain level of living and also very
Yes.
used to a certain income, whether it be them not realizing that they can like make more or just thinking that like this is just it, this is where I am. Um, Nurses are famous for picking up overtime and then getting burnt out from a lack of work-life balance. Some of this can be solved through a more efficient management of their current finances. Do you have any general tips for nurses that may be overwhelmed by like investing or some of those bigger terms, but they don't really know where to start? I know that some of these concepts are really individualized, but do you have any general tips?
Yes. One is that everyone should have a high yield savings account. There's no excuses for it. The second thing, kind of in tandem with that, let me just say that. You shouldn't have a significant amount of money in your checking account. There should be just enough to basically pay a month's worth of bills, then the rest should go to savings earning interest, and that is in a high yield savings account.
Mm.
People who have their savings account with Bank of America or Chase or any of these things, I don't do it.
Ooh.
Switch. Every single person. There's no reason not to. Those are like the easiest things you could do today.
Super interesting. Super interesting. And is it because they have lower interest rates than some of the other banks that you can find?
Yeah, so the chasing them will never give you even 1% of interest on your money. And that the thing is, I think people this is get granular, like they're making money off your money that's in the bank. Your money's not actually sitting in the bank, okay?
Hmm.
It's being invested in stuff and you're not taking advantage of banks that will give you more interest. So a lot of the high yield savings accounts now are in the high 3%, low 4% range now with when interest rates going down. You can't pay for that at Chase, okay?
Yeah.
So better yet, and I'm a Chase class. I love Chase in itself for its purpose, but when it comes to your savings, you need to put it somewhere where it's going to make more.
Interesting. I mean, I can tell that you have a high level of knowledge for this right there. Thank
Yes.
you.
You're welcome.
Um, so I've been talking to a lot of other coaches. Is this similar to health coaching in any way? Money coaching or no? Is it like its own
Y-
separate thing that you just kind of carved your own path out of a deep interest of yours?
So it's actually funny because when I actually started my business overall, our Green Life, it was a health and wellness and financial wellness blog. And then over time, because I didn't really want to get my nursing license involved, I chose to go the finance route. Plus, I just saw like that can solve so many issues. I know a lot of nurses go into the health coach route, and I'm like, I don't know a lot of nurses doing it the other way. And so, helping people with money can solve a lot of issues that they're even encountering with their health. And then on top of that, I think in general, something all coaching arenas have in similarity is mindset. Mindset is affected no matter kind of what area of coaching you're in, but with money especially because it's it's so everyday that people don't think about the stuff that they grow up with, dealing with it, the stuff that they encounter, what has created their money stories. And so with in coaching, it's like talking to the person. Like one client I had, she was like, oh, like she couldn't get it together that she didn't understand investing. And I'm like, but why would you be down on yourself about something you were never taught?
Mm.
Like, why would you, if your child, she had children, like, if your child, didn't understand something, would you talk to them that way? Like the way you're talking to yourself? And so these kind of things then open up the person's mind to actually taking in the information and like understanding it because now they don't feel stupid. They don't feel like, oh, I should know better. It's like, okay, I'm here and I'm ready to learn.
Again, the difference between a nurse money coach and
Yeah.
another type of money coach right there. Like so empathetic, so good at seeing to the core of a person and speaking to like the whole body wellness, even if you aren't
Yes.
necessarily like treating their stress levels like directly, like you are by bringing awareness to every other part of them. Um,
Yes.
so kudos to you for that. Um, yeah, because I
Thank
mean,
you.
money stuff is just the vein of so many people's existence. And when it gets out of hand, keeps you up at night, it's really
Oh
stresses you
yeah.
out, it affects sleep, it affects every part of your life. So yeah, if you're decreasing your money issues, it can have like widespread ramifications in a positive way.
Oh, for sure. And even with stress in itself, like it's not just putting stress on yourself. A lot of times, marriages break up mostly because of money issues. So if we can address that, make that so much easier, that decreases the chance of someone separating because of this. And
Mm.
so it's just, and also too, the other kind of unknown side effect of it, like I've just been discovering over time, is that when you learn about money, then you tell your friend about money, and then you tell your friend about money. And then so it just has a nice ripple effect across our society for us to be more educated about money.
Again, it sounds like you're really passionate about this. You're not just doing this as a side hustle or something that you just found a way to make quick money on the side. It sounds like you really do want to make a lasting impression on the society around you.
I do, and I don't, it's definitely not quick and it's definitely not easy. I mentioned in one of your interactions on LinkedIn that like being an entrepreneur is not easy. There's a lot, like sometimes I've like, am I gonna survive this? Like if I can't get my emotions together, because it's so personal in comparison to like when you go to a job and you're doing something based on someone else's policies and stuff. When you go to do something that matters to you and it maybe doesn't get the response you expected to get, I never saw that coming. I was not ready for that. But at the same time, it's almost when one time my husband was like, so, you have the option of quitting. And that almost hurt more. I was like, I don't really want to. I can't leave all these people hanging. Like, that's crazy. So it's a lot. And it doesn't matter a lot to me.
Yeah, that resonates with me. That resonates with me so much. I don't think I can really quit being an entrepreneur. Like my life and soul is in this. It lights a fire in no other way that I like knew was possible.
Hmm.
Yeah, because when you figure something out and you succeed and you help someone, it's all yours, you know?
Yeah.
Um, Interesting that you brought in like your personal emotions to your business and how emotional that was, because I definitely feel that too. My favorite workshop is my least selling workshop. My goal
Mm.
setting workshop, I preach about goals all the time. Even in my personal life, like I have 3 year, 5 year, 10 year goals, and like everyone knows it about me. I'm almost a New Year's baby, so I think that's why it's almost like a new birthday, a new year type of thing. But it's helped
Yeah.
me so much in my business. And that's one of my favorite tips to tell people is make goals.
Mhm.
And like no one wants the goal setting workshop that I created. So it's such a bummer because it's such an important integral part of like me and my business and a lot of my success. I really don't think I'd be this successful if I didn't have a game plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, other people just don't see it. So
Yeah.
entrepreneurial is definitely taking a piece of yourself and like building a business around it. So you do kind of have to have a little bit of a tough skin after
Oh,
a little
yeah.
bit. So, money coaching is so far outside the realm of nursing, and
Mhm.
you're an incredible example of someone who took their strengths and interests and monetized them to help someone else. Do you have any like additional licenses or certifications to be a money coach, or did you just learn on the go and brought what you learned from your personal experiences to other people?
Yeah, it's more the latter, though I did get support along the way. So there's a financial coach academy. It's not for certification, but it does help you build your business around money coaching, and then also helps you like on how to teach the things. Because sometimes you know how to do the things, but being able to explain those concepts to another person, how do you do that? How do you ask the right questions in order to get the full understanding of what the person is going through and helping to motivate them to make the changes that they want to see. So that has been extremely helpful in like establishing kind of like a framework for my process. And so like that way it's like I'm not just like figuring out completely on my own. It's not the only coaching program I took either. I took a life coaching program. I did a marketing program. So there's a lot of like little things to piece it all together to make a whole picture. But yeah, no certifications. There are certifications for money coaches, and maybe one day I will do it. But for now, it's just basically teaching people through your experience like what works for them and help them to make their own decisions because that's actually the best part. My goal is not to tell anybody what to do, it's to make sure they know what options there are available to them, they understand those options, and that they're empowered to make those decisions.
Yeah, like we said, so much of this is personalized, so it's not going to be a one size fits all. Um, I love that you haven't gone to school for anything deeper into money coaching. I think that nurses get really paranoid about our scope and the credentials at the end of our
Mhm.
name and going to school for X amount of years to get more experience and more not like power, but to offset that imposter syndrome that I think a lot of nurses
Yes.
really suffer from. So I love highlighting when nurses just get out there, they do it, they figure it out without like wasting time in school. And not that school is a waste, but it shouldn't be a limit on what you're doing. So I think
Agreed.
that's awesome that you did that. And I could definitely see a marketing coaching program like being super helpful too. Marketing's hard to figure out sometimes.
Oh yeah, especially because as nurses, this is not something at all that we're taught in any way in fashion,
Yeah.
which makes sense because that's not what school is for, right? But so like when you go to venture out on your own and it seems like simple enough, like okay, I create a service that people need, it will sell. It does not work that way. So there is a lot to learn. And it's great to have other counterparts too in entrepreneurship because it does help like, okay, what has been working for you? I like to check in like, like you did a launch, like what worked for you? What didn't work for you? These are not things you can find in a book, like they'll dictate, okay, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, but personal experience really helps with people in the trenches right now with you. It's so helpful.
Yes, yes. I always say collaboration over competition any day. I have like a small pocket of nurse entrepreneurs that in we're in a WhatsApp group, and there's just sometimes where I'm like,
Mm,
guys, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on. Like, and I just like message them my
nice.
panic message, and they all talk it through with me, and I'm helpful for them too in like random ways too. So yeah, it's nice just to run through things and not be completely isolated because as a business owner,
Hmm.
a lot of the time you're the only person running that machine. And it's easy to kind of just get in your own head and not see a clear path
Hmm.
when you're like in the trenches. So yeah, definitely
Yes.
checking in with people and seeing what works with them is huge.
Agreed. Even if it's not, like I think one of the things I was telling a fairly new entrepreneur trying to get into like the increases business. I was like, whatever communities you're in, be an active participant.
Mm.
So that way, not only will you could learn things that can help them, but then they could also support you. And it gets your name out there without anything. Like you don't have to be salesy or anything to get people to see who you are and that could be your next collaborator. That could be your next client. You never know. So just be active in the communities that you're in.
Yeah, I'm always the first one to say like I'm open to like promote anything that anyone wants me to, like use my community, use my voice, especially other nurses. I have such a soft spot for other nurses. So, and some really cool collaborations have come out of that. Like I said, collaboration over competition any day. I am not here to compete with anyone. I'm here to raise everyone up around me. The world is hard.
Agreed.
Like we got to be nice to each other.
Agreed.
Um, so do you have any books, resources, or podcasts that you recommend for nurses that are starting their money journey but are just overwhelmed?
Yeah, so I try to be careful with this because I'm a very money nerd, kind of math nerd thing. So I like to be careful not to put out the ones that are going to be more complicated. What started my journey personally was the Her Money podcast. And the way that it was helpful to me was first of all that it's hosted by Jean Chatzky, and she speaks about money in a way that doesn't seem intimidating. And then also not like no offense to Susie Orman, but not the Susie Orman girl-ness about money. She's very approachable And she also, there's none of that talk about like manage how much you spend on makeup and all that stuff. It's like it's just practical advice on how to manage your funds. And she has guests on from all different walks of life. And that's actually how I got introduced to the Choose Five podcast. And that podcast actually made the biggest difference for me, but it's very numbers oriented. So just an FYI for the people who are do not like that stuff. Another great podcast for general purposes is it's for money, but it's more general. It's Ramit Sethi. I Would Teach You to Be Rich. That is just he actually interviews couples on his show, and they kind of walk through like the money psychology, especially. I think that that would help people open up so much more and having that conversation, seeing that there's other people like them out there. Like it's not just you that's going through this rough time, and especially for people who have like trouble spending, trouble saving, and it feels like they're the problem. Like there's a whole story behind what you're going through. You're not alone. So those are
Yeah.
the ones I would recommend for podcast wise anyway. And then books, Your Money, Your Life is a great book. Okay. It really shows you how taking ownership of your money and grabbing onto your money mindset will help you to develop your like a life that you desire and a life that you want. Also, what was it? We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rodgers. Inspiring, literally inspiring, and really goes to show putting the power of what's going on with your money back in your hands.
I love that you brought up the tone of some of them, saying that they're easy, approachable, easy to digest. I think that did they ever teach you in nursing school that when people are at the bedside and they're in pain, they're less likely to take in information because their
Yes.
ability to learn is reduced? I feel like it's the same way when they're ashamed and they're stressed and they're just
Mm-hmm.
like trying to take that first step into like money management. So
Yep.
it's nice to hear that there is some really approachable, easy, like podcasts that don't shame the person and that they're really relatable. So that's really great for all the listeners to know that there's a safe space for
Yes.
people. And like I said, your resources are there too, and we're going to link to that. Um,
Awesome.
so this podcast is also for nurses that are thinking about being entrepreneurs and they're not quite sure. They might be burnt out the bedside. They don't really know. So, what were your first few steps to getting started as an entrepreneur?
So I think the first thing for me was kind of doing it on accident, like without putting the mindset of a business, right? I found myself making budgets at the nurse's station or like helping my coworker add a beneficiary to a 401k. Like I was like just having routine conversations. And so find those pockets where like it's something you speak naturally about, something that seems so normal to you, and then start to explore that. And so that's what I did. I was like, okay, I knew kind of money coaching existed, but I don't think I knew like there was even that much of a community out there until I started exploring it. So once you have an idea of like what you feel good about, what you could feel like you could talk about, even if nobody was listening, like explore that. What are the options down that path? And now, besides just Google, now we have all this AI tools that can help you really explore all these things. And then you could really do market research on whether or not there is a gap that you can fill. And what I did notice, at least on my end, while there are a lot of money coaches and there are some nurse money coaches, there are way less of specified nurse money coaches than money coaches as a whole. I've seen money coaches come from all sorts of areas, but especially the financial space. So why not have nurses in there that they could relate to the 12-hour shifts, that could relate to feeling burnt out, feeling like you want to, take a different job or try something else different. So I'm happy to be one of those people.
Amen. I mean, why not have nurses in every alternative industry that can understand every other nurse? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to point out that you said market research again. I love pointing out that phrase because I try and point people in that direction all the time. If you have an idea, it's only as good as your market research. You can have an amazing
Hmm.
idea, but if someone else is already doing it or the market is super saturated, it's not going to work and it needs to be tweaked. I also love that you said that it happened on accident. Mine also kind of happened on accident. I kept writing these deliverables, and then I would look back and I'd be like, oh, I guess I'm like a nurse writer. Like, I guess that's what that term was. And I was actually
Yeah.
writing for a couple of years, and then I hopped on LinkedIn and I saw the term nurse writer that a girl had
Mm,
already, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is that word? Like, you can do that? And we started messaging back and forth, and she's like, yeah, we can do that, and was talking to me all about it. And I was like, that's what
nice.
I'm doing. I just didn't know that we had a term for that. And then because I defined it and had a term, I was able to just explode from there because like
Nice.
it had like a its own term and I could start to figure out how to like feed that. So yeah, mine was totally by accident too.
You gotta love it.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. It's really funny how that works. Um,
And I was entrepreneurship averse too because I knew kind of the work that went into it because my husband started doing it. I was like, oh, I would never. And yet here we are. So,
yeah, it's a love-hate relationship. I'm so passionate, like I said, it has ignited
mm,
a fire in me that I love to see burning. But at the same time, I'm like, I would like to not be juggling all these tasks that I keep giving myself. Like, no one gave me this podcast besides me. Like, this was my own
yeah,
idea, but here I am doing this. Like, loving it,
yeah,
loving every second of it. But yeah, this is a great new task that I have.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it never ends. So what's your best advice for nurses listening out there that may want to do something kind of similar to what you did?
So I would say, like I said before, is look for where you can find something of interest that you could talk about forever, and then explore that. Find other people in that niche to get their insights on like how they got started. So that way you could see if this is something that you're really into. It's also great for you to have a financial stability before you do something like this because you really don't know how much it's going to cost before you turn a profit. Okay. So it's good to have a good financial baseline before you decide that, hey, I'm going to go full time into this. Or maybe you even don't want to do it full time, but still, like if you kept it as a side hustle but you still need to feed it until it feeds itself. So having your money together before that makes it so that you don't have to feast and famine and like you can actually enjoy the work because it's not dependent on its success. Like you don't have to, when you send an email to your audience, if they don't buy, you don't have to feel like, oh my God, I won't be able to pay my mortgage. Like you really want that space in your life. So get your money together.
Yes, 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 yes. I can't agree with that more. I see a lot of posts that equate quitting your day job to success in
Mm,
entrepreneurship. And it makes me so nervous that everyone's just going to quit their day jobs to
I
like,
know.
I guess be like successful on social media. And I'm like, you guys, that might not be the right choice for you. Like, I don't think that's a great idea. We shouldn't all do that. Because
Yeah.
like anything could happen. You know what I mean? Your business can be so successful, the market could change, like I don't know. So, yeah, I definitely agree with having like either some sort of a plan B in your pocket or like a really nice like nest egg type thing to
Yes.
sustain that type of thing. Especially I like how you said you have to feed it before it's self-sufficient.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of being an entrepreneur is just kind of experimenting and figuring out what works.
Yeah, that's really it. And there's a lot of testing, and I'm learning to enjoy that process as well. It's like testing. Like, okay, let me see. I give myself 3 months before I call something a failure, or 6 months before I call something a failure, you know? But that's something like when we're working for someone else, we don't have that kind of turnaround time, right? And you're kind of doing stuff based on somebody else's framework. When you're doing it for yourself, you have to set up these kind of frameworks and timelines in order to see what succeeded or what isn't. And you can't just go by one thing and it's like, oh, that didn't work. Okay, off to the next thing, or else you'll never get traction on anything. So
Mhm.
all that requires patience and all that requires money in the meantime.
Yeah, and what might succeed for someone else might not succeed for you.
Hmm.
I was told by everyone, like, start a newsletter. You have to start a newsletter. Some people have amazing newsletters, and you think mine would be like popping off because I'm a writer. I hate it. I hate that thing. It's like doing okay, but I hate that thing. And then I started the podcast, and the podcast is so much more successful than the
Hmm.
newsletter was. So
Yeah.
it's so interesting that, like I said, one size doesn't fit all, and you don't know until you try it. So
Hmm.
all of that does take time.
The other thing I want to add too with
Mm,
that, because every one thing I've noticed, especially because, now being a business, everything is B2B to you, right?
mm.
So what I notice is that everybody says they have the answer, right? The reason you're not successful is because you're not doing this, which feels like crap. Don't listen to them, okay? Trial things, like I said, little by little until you find the thing that works for you. And then at the end of the day, it's your business. So we don't want you, I don't think any entrepreneur who cares about other entrepreneurs wants us to be doing something that doesn't matter to us or
Mm.
something that makes us feel like, reluctant to do it. Like we really don't feel like it's a chore to do this thing, but I have to do it because somebody said arbitrarily that I have to do it.
Yes.
Like find the things that light you up. And there's going to be some things that we don't enjoy that have to be part of our business for sure, but we don't have to follow every single person that's saying like you need to do this, you need to be on all the platforms, you need to do all this. Like just it has to work for you because if you're not passionate about it, at the end of the day, you're just going to wind up kind of where you started, which is burnt out.
Yeah, it's supposed to be fun, or at least to me, it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Most of my journey has been really fun. I like to say I don't take it too seriously, even though I do, but a lot of
Hmm.
my choices are based on fun as well as success.
Yes, I think that's important.
Prisca Benson, thank you so much for coming on. I can tell how much your clients mean to you, and I think that they are in great hands having a nurse as a money coach. Your empathy just shines through everything you said today, as well as your knowledge, and I can just tell how passionate you are. So thank you so much for sharing a sliver of your knowledge and your time with my people today. We are internally grateful for you.
Thank you. I so appreciate you having me.
Anytime. All right. Until next time.